All right, we're back once again, and it's that time of the year, the end of the year, and it's bowl season, but also time for the college football playoff. Let's welcome in the encyclopedia. How you doing today, Connor?
Doing good. Glad to be back.
Yeah, we had a little hiatus there, but speaking of, how was your trip to New Orleans other than the Mean Green disappointing you once again?
It was a good trip overall. Got to see some of my family in Covington. I haven't been to
Oh, you
that.
have some family in Covington.
Yeah, in fact, fun fact for our viewers, most of my family is from Louisiana.
Oh,
I actually grew up an LSU fan and a very passionate LSU fan. I had
okay.
two uncles who attended Louisiana State University, graduated in the early 80s. So believe it or not, like technically like dirty blonde. I'm actually Cajun. I may not look Cajun because I'm blue eyed,
Okay.
dirty blonde, but I'm like 75% Cajun.
Okay. All right.
So I haven't been to the state of Louisiana in about, let's see here, it had been about 4 years since I had crossed the Louisiana state line. Three relatives of mine have actually passed away over the last few years.
Oh,
Both of my grandparents passed away, and then I had a great uncle passed away a couple years ago, so I have one surviving family member in that area with my great aunt that
yeah.
lives over in Covington. So I got to visit her after the game. But New Orleans was pretty fun. I went with a few buddies of mine from UNT,
Okay, good.
North Texas, and we ate at a pretty good restaurant in New Orleans. I think the name of it was, gosh dang, I'm trying to remember. Lil Dizzy's. Lil Dizzy's.
Little Dizzy's.
Yeah, that was the name of it.
Okay, I've never been
Um,
to New Orleans, so I would restaurant or whatever, but
yeah,
that's
they had
that's
a.
good. But was it? It was rainy, right? It was a rainy game.
Yep, there was some rain, different parts of the game, but it wasn't really coming down too hard. I got to see some of the game like on TV afterwards, and it looked like there was a little bit of a downpour. It
Mm-hmm.
wasn't really that bad. It just looked like it on television.
Okay.
Of course, being a former soccer player playing in the rain, you kind of get used to that weather, and so
Yeah.
any little bit of a drizzle doesn't feel like that much, but it wasn't a downpour at any point. Um, but yeah, I got to see some of my family and got to visit New Orleans for almost 24 hours. So that was pretty cool. Um, it was great being back in what feels like my home state, even though I was born and raised in Texas. I've lived a quarter of my life in Louisiana throughout different summer times and
Uh-huh.
holiday seasons growing up. But yeah, the game obviously didn't go that well. The American title between UNT and Tulane. I will say there were a couple of egregious calls that went in Tulane's favor. North Texas did not get any help. I thought that was one of the worst referee games this entire college football season. Now, Tulane was the better team. They were. But I would have liked to have seen a fairly called game because that game may have come down to the wire. So, like, congratulations to Tulane representing the American in the college football playoff and being the highest overall seed from the G5 this year. James Madison ended up getting into the playoff as well after Duke took down Virginia in the ACC title. But congratulations to Tulane. But I wish that was a more fairly refereed game because that game would have been that much more fun to watch.
Yeah. And so after that, well, I guess before that, so North Texas loses their head coach and they're about to lose their quarterback, and it's going to be a whole new rebuilding, era for the Mean Green, right?
Yeah, probably so. And that's the reality of today's college football. Anytime you have a really good team, in the G5 specifically, you're losing that production, certainly. And there's a
Yeah.
pretty good chance you're going to lose the coaching staff. And for North Texas, the last couple of years, they've had to reload offensively. They've lost almost all of their production in back to back years, and they're going to be losing the majority of their production again. But now you add on top of it, it's going to be a coaching change as well for the Mean Green. They just hired Neil Brown, former West Virginia and Troy head coach.
Yeah.
I don't think it's a home run hire, but that's the reality of today's college football. If you're a G5 program, maybe not named Boise or Memphis, you're probably not going to reload. You're
Yeah.
probably going to rebuild. I think that's credit to UNT because they've had a lot of production to replace offensively the last 3 seasons, and you wouldn't know it because they're top 10, at least top 20 every single year in almost every offensive statistic. And you wouldn't know it, but UNT ranks towards the bottom in offensive returning production since basically 2022. But now there's a coaching change on top of it. So how will things look? It's probably going to look quite a bit different in Denton next year, and the schedule will get more difficult for UNT because this season North Texas had the most manageable schedule in the American.
Yeah. And there's gonna be quite a bit of turnover at the top of the American with Memphis getting a new
Mm-hmm.
head coach. I think they probably made one of the best hires of the coaching cycle, getting Huff from Marshall and Southern Miss, and I think it's definitely a major upgrade over Ryan Silverfield, who's now at Arkansas, correct?
That's right. And
Yeah,
I
I
agree with
don't,
you.
and I was gonna go on a rant here, but I just don't understand that hire whatsoever. And for Arkansas, it doesn't make any sense. I'd rather have, a Huff than Silverfield. I mean, this guy was almost fired. Like what is he? He's never won the American, right? I know he's never beaten UTSA.
He's never won the American. And you could make a really strong case that last year's team, 2024, was his best roster.
Yeah.
It probably, I think I've made this comment before. I'm not sure if I've said it on here before, but I know I've told you personally, John. I thought last year Memphis was the best G5 team, and Boise just happened to make the college football playoff because
Mm-hmm.
Memphis had a couple of head scratching losses, including to UTSA.
Yeah.
But remember, they went on the road against Tulane and smoked Tulane in the regular season finale last year. But
Yeah.
it didn't matter. They weren't even, going to play for the conference title. Tulane had already locked up a spot. Army had already locked up a spot. Army ended up beating Tulane last year in the American title. But yeah, I don't get the hire by Arkansas either. Silverfield never got the most out of his talent at Memphis,
Ever.
and
Yeah.
he
He's
always
never even
has
won the
the most
American.
talent in the
I don't
American.
get it.
So I'm not too fond of that hire either. Arkansas fans don't love the hire. I It's a low bar to clear for Arkansas to be better than 2-10
Yeah,
record
that's true.
wise, but are they going to really improve overall as a program? I don't think so.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna put the over under on years he's there at 2.5. Give me the under because I think I don't it may last more than a year. What did Chad Morris was there 2 years? I think 2 years. He's like 0-14, maybe one win,
He
and
was there
then
for
you
a
had
couple of years, yeah.
yeah, and then you had the Brett Bilma. That was like somehow that was actually better than what they have been recently under Sam Pittman. And then
Bielema wasn't too bad, honestly. They were
no, he
competitive.
was
They
he.
just lost a lot of close games, but
Yeah, no, I agree. He wasn't amazing, but he was kind of like he was above average, I believe. But yeah, not to get off track here. So I know that we had talked about we would be going over some of the bowl games, but now, I know you have a pool and a contest and you don't want to tip your hand, which I get. And I'm not a big bowl better, to be honest with you. Ever since the NIL stuff started happening, it was kind of, you know, um, it's really a crapshoot, to be honest with you.
it is.
And sometimes you don't know who's playing and the quarterback situations, the coaching situations. So it's kind of tough. It really, I mean, I understand people want to bet on it. But for these G5 teams, like you're talking about, it's literally a gamble, and that's what this bowl season has become, unfortunately. But yeah, so right now we won't be going over too much of the regular standard bowls. We'll be getting into the college football playoff. And speaking of the college football playoff, what did you think about, the seeding, the selections? Do you have any gripes? What did you think about how everything played out on Selection Sunday?
I don't really have any gripes because the way that the playoff format currently is, they say the five highest ranked conference champions. And guess what? The five highest ranked conference champions, you had three Power Four, two G5, because Duke beat Virginia in the ACC championship.
Yeah,
So, based on the format, the current format, which will probably change because of what happened this year,
it
but
should.
yeah, I agree with you. I don't think maybe they understood what their wording could mean if things went a certain way, and it went
Exactly.
just a certain way this year, specifically talking for the G5 here. Look, I'm happy for Tulane and James Madison. The American title winner, I 100% believed should have been in the playoff. I was on that since South Florida beat Boise State. And then of course when USF beat Florida, I'm like, the American title winner better be the G5 representative. I don't care what Boise State does here on out.
Yeah,
Um, so I totally agree with Tulane having won the American, getting to be the highest ranked G5 team in this case. And then because of some chaos in the way that the ruling currently is worded, at least, I don't know if they meant it to be this way, but the way that it's properly worded, they followed their own rule book and JMU got in. Now we're getting to the point of deserving against the best. And this was a very opinionated topic, even in the four team era. Which teams were most deserving? Which teams were the best? For those watching right now, I have a post talking about deserving and best arguments on my college football page. I posted this actually a couple years ago, almost a couple years ago, back when we had the four team format. There are different situations now with the expanded playoff, but the deserving and best arguments are still the same. And this is where most people differentiate because some people look at deserving and best as the same, and some look at it completely different. And so you have those two groups of people that are going to argue for which teams deserve to be in because some people think deserving and best are the same and some people argue differently. If you are arguing that James Madison should not be in, you want the 12 best teams.
yeah,
If you are arguing that hey, JMU deserves to be in, then you're in the other group. So that is college football politics essentially, and that's we have the Republican and Democrat party. Well, we have the deserving and best parties in college football.
yeah.
So it depends on what party you're in. For me right now, John, I would be in the deserving party because that's the way the rules are currently set. And until the rules change, I'm going to stay in the deserving. If you want to argue and say it should be flipped where it's the 12 best, I totally get that because you would, if you are in the best category, or in this case, using college football politics, if you're in the best party, you want to see high quality football in the playoff. You
Yeah.
want to see the best teams with the best talent go at it. And I totally get it. But the way the playoff is currently set with the rule book, which again will probably change here shortly, I think it should be the 12 most deserving teams. So I don't have any gripes. I think the 12 deserving teams ultimately got in.
I agree. I agree 100% because they basically are going off of the exact rules and what they had in place. So you can't just change the rules halfway or at the end of like the race, right? So you got to play out the race, and then next year you probably should fix the rules because first of all, well, we'll get into this in a minute because I'll ask you. But yeah, like people that were griping about Notre Dame, which I don't understand that whatsoever. I do not, and I like Notre Dame, but I don't understand why. Notre Dame thought that they deserved to get in. They lost to Miami. They got smoked by Miami, and then they got beat by A&M. Yes, they played 10 more games and they looked, phenomenal. Everyone improved, but, you know, they still lost the games and basically played the exact same schedule as Miami. So I was happy to see Miami get in over Notre Dame because they should have. They should have, plain and simple. They won head to head. The rest of the resume was basically identical. And if you really want to get into resumes, Miami outscored and I think defeated a lot of the same opponents more than what Notre Dame did. So the Notre Dame people, I don't get that. I mean, if you're a fan, you don't dig into it too deep. You're mad. I get it. But let's be real. Miami deserved and should have been over Notre Dame. I was good with that. A lot of Texas fans, wanting Texas in because they scheduled Ohio State but lost, and then they beat Oklahoma, which I kind of get. But then Oklahoma did beat Alabama. Texas lost to Georgia, and then they lost to Florida, which ultimately kicked them out, and Miami beat Florida. So I really didn't have a gripe with Texas getting left out. I know Alabama's ice cold coming into the college football playoff tomorrow. So we'll see what happens there. But I thought that Alabama could have gotten bumped out. But again, when it comes to the money, I don't think Alabama was going to get left out for losing in the SEC championship, especially because they beat Georgia on the road. If Georgia beats Alabama in that game, Alabama's out and Texas is probably in. Or Notre Dame. Honestly, what was it? Notre Dame and BYU were ahead of Texas, right?
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I would have had Notre Dame in BYU. I get it that their only two losses were against Texas Tech, but they were kind of like killed in both of those games. So BYU getting left out, I didn't really have an issue with that. Especially once Bachmeyer got injured in the Big 12 championship, they had no chance. They had no shot of getting into the college football playoff. But the one thing I did want to mention was that was the other thing. I completely forgot about this, that Duke got beat by Tulane earlier in the season, correct?
Yeah. That's
So
right.
that I think that's what kind of eliminated them against James Madison. But I will say I watched that Duke Virginia game. That was probably the best I've ever seen Duke ever play. The defense looked incredible. Although, Virginia choked, they played an awful game. Duke actually showed up. They looked good. And I thought, they looked good enough to get into the playoff, I thought, just based off of the eye test. But I think that loss to Tulane and then James Madison with one loss, they kind of leapfrogged them, especially they were ahead in the polls and that sort of thing going into the championship week. So I get Duke getting left out, and plus they lost what 4 or 5 games this year.
Yeah, I think Duke finished 8-5 after their ACC title.
Yeah, so it's hard to shed a tear for the Blue Devils, with the resume like that. Even though they finished the season strong, James Madison jumping them didn't really have a problem with. And then yeah, so that's let me bring up the bracket here. So that's what we have. So tomorrow night's the first round, and we've got Alabama at Oklahoma. Winner plays Indiana. Because they don't reseed, right? It's just the bracket.
That's right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so they
straight
don't.
seeding.
There's no reseeding. It's just the bracket, just like in college basketball. I believe the NFL does reseeding. I think that's the only playoff that does and baseball. NFL and MLB do reseeding.
The CFP did that reseeding stuff last year, and then they changed it to straight seeding this season.
Oh, okay. So they did have it last year. They did reseed last year.
Yep. And that was a
Oh,
large part of the reason we had so many first round blowouts last year. And I
yeah.
can remember some people like tweeting out the day of or the day before some of those first round games last year with Ohio State, Tennessee, and Penn State and SMU. People were saying, hey, you watch, everyone's counting out the underdogs, but I'm going to give best bets. Let's do all like, ATS taking the underdogs to cover here because we think that maybe the committee knows what they were doing here, making the playoff the way that they were. And I
Mm-hmm.
remember thinking, I'm like, gosh, I think people are going to be in for a little bit of a surprise here. I think some of these lower seeded teams are going to
Mm-hmm.
make it a little bit further in the playoff, and some of the teams with the buys are not going to look as good as you think. And what
Yeah.
happened last year? I'm pretty sure every single team with the bye did
They
not
all
advance.
lost.
Yeah.
Yeah. Arizona State lost. Penn State lost. Georgia, Boise. They all lost. All the teams they got to buy last year, they all lost. Which, yeah, they because this season, heck, Tulane would have a buy, So
Yeah.
I'm glad they fixed that.
Right.
But okay, so straight seeding, and then we're gonna have Ole Miss, Tulane. No, the first game on Saturday is gonna be A&M Miami. Winner plays Ohio State, and then I believe it's Ole Miss, Tulane. Winner plays Georgia, and then James Madison at Oregon. Winner plays Texas Tech. So let's go ahead and do you have any before we get into the games? Do you have anything you want to touch on?
We briefly talked about it at the very beginning of the show, talking about how the non-playoff bowl games are a crapshoot now.
Mm-hmm.
But one thing we did talk about this before we started our live show here, just between us, but I'll say it here as we're live now. I think one thing that would fix some of the chaos of bowl season because of the calendar and the way that it currently is in college football. I think one thing that could really help negate some of the sloppiness that we're seeing in bowl season now and all these crazy opt-outs and portals. Even though the portal window has moved back, we're still seeing opt-outs and players being tampered with towards the end of the regular season. Honestly, they've got guys in their ear all year if they're pretty good, but
Yeah.
you have more tampering going on obviously right now. And so one thing that would help fix that is if we made these players more so employees and they had to sign contracts, written down on paper. You have to play the full season, including the postseason, regardless if we make the playoff or not. Maybe you have different contracts for different players, but you have it in written down. Here's what you have to do. Here's how many games you have to play to get X amount of dollars. If we started doing that, and for the majority of these players, it's all games, including the postseason, if not all players, providing that they stay healthy, obviously, then I think that would shore up a lot of the issues that we are currently seeing in bowl season. Now, is that going to help fix the entire college football calendar issue? No, but I think that would make bowl games a greater incentive for players because right now they can just opt out. It's like, I'm pretty good. I'm getting contacted by this team. I may not play as many snaps as I am right now. Hey, but I'm going to get that money because I'm not going to be an NFL player, but I can go transfer to that school and I can get 250,000 more dollars, or I can get 2 million instead of 1 million. Yeah, they're gonna do it.
Yeah. No, I agree with that 100%. They want to be treated like, they want to have all the perks in the world, all the money. But whenever it comes down to, because whenever you're an employee, you have to abide by the rules of the school and, show up and do all of those things. So, yeah, they need to be held accountable. And I think, I forget who it was. Kirby Smart who said, we need to kind of make it to where the season ends on January 1st. That way, they can get all the schedule right. That way the players are able to finish out the whole season, championship week, bowl season and all that. So, I agree 100%. Will they ever do it? I don't know, but yeah, they want to be, they want to make money for doing every, for whatever, for playing, making NIL money. Yeah, they're basically employees at this point. You might as well, have contracts attached to it and just be done with it. And you know, the thing that I don't like is the constant transferring. There's got to be some sort of transfer rules in place. these guys going to like 7 different schools. It's everything is just getting out of control. But yeah, I don't want to go off on a rant on that. But yeah, it just needs to be a little bit more, have a little bit more structure though, for sure.
And I agree with what Kirby Smart had to say a little while back, talking about how he would restructure the college football calendar. I agree
Yeah,
with him. But in today's world, you still need incentive for these players to play out for these bowl games. I mean, fixing the calendar obviously would be great for the overall college football structure. That's great. But in terms of just the crapshoot of bowl season now, outside the playoff and maybe a couple of the bigger bowl games outside of the playoff, you need incentive. And so we know at some point down the line, might be sooner rather than later, these players are going to become essentially employees. I mean, they basically already are, but
yeah,
I mean, like it's going to be written, at some point in the future. And college football needs leadership. Once they get leadership, I'm sure there's going to be more rules put into place. It's just a matter of time before college football does get some sort of a commissioner. It really is because it's the NFL junior now. You can't
yeah,
have the NFL junior and not have leadership. So leadership is going to be coming probably within the next 5 years. So once that occurs, you cross that threshold, then you can implement more rules. Then you can create, these employees essentially, because now, NIL and schools are becoming their own separate entities.
yeah.
Are
Yeah,
they?
Utah just partnered with private equity, and now I think the Big 12 is trying to do the same. So things are starting to spiral. Things are getting out of control for sure.
Yeah. So once leadership becomes a thing, whether it's Josh Pate or something or somebody that becomes the leader of college football or the commissioner of college football, then from there, what rules are implemented? I think this might be one of them. Obviously, changing the calendar is probably going to be the first thing, and I agree with that. But I would not be shocked to see, you know, contract for these players saying that they have to play X amount of games to receive X amount of dollars. And I think that would shore up a lot of the issue right now.
Yeah, no, I agree with that 100% for sure. All right, let's jump into it. First game Friday night, tomorrow night, and let me see what time it's a 7 p.m. game Central Time. Alabama Crimson Tide, a rematch from a game earlier this season. They travel to Norman to take on the Oklahoma Sooners. Sooners right now are favored by a point, total of 41. What kind of information you got on this one?
So I think Oklahoma was a little bit fortunate to beat Alabama in the regular season. I also think OU was fortunate to win like half their games. But they force turnovers. That's how they win. So at
Yeah,
some point, you kind of have to look at OU differently and just say, you know what? That's just how they play. And that's how they're going to win the majority of their games. And it's almost like their opponent, they kind of play into OU's style. Because I was going to say they give the game away, but really OU's making it happen. They force turnovers. That's just what they do. It's like watching Iowa a couple of years back, especially back in 2021, 2022, 2023. You look at Iowa and say, man, they were so lucky to win that game. They were outgained by 150, 200 yards, but they won the turnover battle 3-0 or 4-1, and that's how they won. But they did it consistently. It's like, well, that's just what they do.
yeah,
And so at some point, you just got to look at that team differently than every other team. It's like if a random team does it on a random given weekend, it's like, okay, that was fortunate. That's not sustainable for that team. But when one team continues to do it week after week after week, that becomes their identity, and that's just who they are. That was Iowa in the past, and that's Oklahoma this season. So, like I said, I think OU was a little bit fortunate to beat Alabama earlier in the regular season, but I also think OU was fortunate to win a couple of other games. But because they've done it so much now, it's like I kind of expect them to do it. But here's the question: can they do it in the playoff? And it's like how much longer can they continue to do this? You wonder. It's been sustainable, but the model says if you're to model it out, there's only a 15% chance that OU wins the turnover battle by 2 or 3 again, right? When you force the amount of turnovers that OU has, Again, like they're making it happen, but there is a component of luck in the turnover margin department. There is a component of luck. Does that component of luck strike again for the Sooners? If it does, I think OU wins because that's how they've been winning. But they're going to have to do it, and that component of luck is going to have to show up again. The theory that I always go by with these kind of games, or these kind of situations, I should say, when you have two really good teams facing each other at least twice in the same season, I never pick the same team to win again. I never pick the same team to win both matchups. So when we did our show a few weeks ago for that regular season matchup,
Yeah.
I kind of like OU in that game. Now I'm going to switch my pick and go with Alabama. So, yes, in this case, I'm picking both of the road teams. But a lot of it is my theory of it's hard to beat a really good or elite team twice in the same season. So, I'm going to go Bama. They outgained OU by about 200 yards. Can they eliminate the turnovers? If Bama does, they win. But again, OU's been doing it week after week. It's just do you assume that that component of luck strikes again? And I'm going to say not to the same degree that it did against Tennessee, against uh, Missouri, that it did against Alabama. So, yeah, I will go with Alabama, but clearly I think it's a toss up.
Yeah, no, I think I agree with you. I think the spread is right on the nose here, especially if you think about the game earlier this season where Alabama was favored by 6.5. They ended up winning. I believe Oklahoma won by 2 points. I think, yeah, because they were down by one, kicked a field goal. They won by 2 points. So if you flip it now, yeah, they're at 8 points and they're 1.5 point favorite. So that kind of makes sense here. The spread is correct. Um, yeah, that the game in Tuscaloosa, Alabama had twice as many yards, twice as many everything than the Sooners, except for the turnovers. Alabama had 3 turnovers. Oklahoma had 0. Same thing happened the year before in 24 with Oklahoma dominating Alabama at home. They won 24-3. They also forced 3 turnovers, but that was against Jalen Milroe. And Venables has done it once. He's done it twice. Can he do it a third time in a row in a game that his first playoff game and Oklahoma's first playoff game since I believe Baker Mayfield was the quarterback against Georgia in a shootout. They ended up losing, but yeah, this is a huge game for both programs. And Alabama, they struggled but won against Auburn, and then they got destroyed by Georgia in the SEC championship, which I was expecting. I was all over Georgia in that game. The Alabama defense looked terrible. The offense couldn't move the ball. How's is speaking of is the running back that was injured for Alabama? What's his health status? Do you know?
Oh, Jam Miller, is that it?
I think so.
Um, Last I heard, he was playing in this game. So
Okay, so I
I
think
think
that was a huge. I mean, a running back shouldn't make that big of a difference typically, but yeah, I mean, the backup was a true freshman for Alabama. He couldn't. I mean, he couldn't get anything going against Georgia. But again, that was Georgia, and as a perfect revenge spot for the Bulldogs as well. And I think that, I kind of agree with you. Everything's, going against Alabama. It might be the good time to jump on the Crimson Tide here. DeBoer, I wasn't too sure because I'm hearing about, Kalen DeBoer possibly going to Michigan. He said something, I believe, a couple of days ago that he's staying at Alabama, but who knows? Michigan, as far as I know, Michigan hasn't hired a coach, right?
that's right. They have not
O-
yet.
Okay. So it's probably either going to be, I don't think it'll be Kalen DeBoer, but I just wouldn't rule anything out this day and age. Or Jed Fish. I think they end up hiring Jed Fish from Washington. We'll see what happens. He did coach. the bowl game, which was the first bowl game of the year. But right now, for me, I thought initially thought Oklahoma at home would probably be the right side. Their defense, and I'm looking into it, and Alabama, they got twice as many yards as the Sooners, but the turnovers killed them. And last year, I keep thinking about last year, and I'm pretty sure every home team won and covered.
Yep.
Is that correct?
That's right. Yep.
Yeah. So every road team won and covered as well. So this is a tough one. So it's like right there, it's basically a pick 'em. You're gonna get 1.5, I think, by the time we get to kickoff tomorrow. Where
Last
you
year
get,
the home teams last year the home teams won and covered in the
yeah,
playoff.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So, um yeah, the only thing that I'm going by in this game is a theory that I've gone by since 2011, and LSU fans would remember why. Anytime you face the same really good team twice in the same year, it's hard for me to pick one of those teams to win both of the matchups.
But isn't that the year that they played 3 times? Regular season? No, they couldn't play the SEC championship because they were both in the same division. That's right.
Yeah, if you play three times, I mean, screw that info.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's right because was it Alabama in the Alabama in the SEC championship? I think they beat Florida, and then
In
they played LSU.
2011, LSU beat Bama 9-6 in that low-scoring overtime game in the regular
Hmm.
season. LSU won the West Division of the SEC. Played Georgia in the SEC championship.
Okay.
LSU did. Fun fact about that game: you're a real sicko if you remember things like this. I happen to remember this, at least this aspect of the game. LSU ended up beating Georgia. I think it was 42-10 final score. But LSU did not pick up a single first down until the third quarter. Georgia
That's
was winning that game 10-7 at half. LSU's only touchdown in the first half was a punt return touchdown from
Honey Badger,
Heisman
right?
Trophy hopeful, the Honey Badger, Tyrann
Yeah.
Mathieu. Um, in fact, if you go back and watch that punt return touchdown, Tyrann Mathieu, he tosses the ball to the referee before he's across the goal line playing.
I
So
remember that.
yeah, so he didn't score there, but anyways, back then you didn't get 20-minute reviews on every single play like you do today.
Yeah.
But LSU ended up controlling the second half, winning there. LSU faced Alabama in the national championship because Oklahoma State lost to Iowa State, second to last game or third to last game of the regular season, and so Bama found themselves back in that championship discussion. And then Baylor beat OU late in the year. That was that game where RG3 was playing for Baylor back then. He threw the ball
Yeah.
down the field and it hit off the intended receiver's helmet for
And
Baylor, and another Baylor receiver was in the right spot at the right time and took it like 60 yards of the house.
yeah, I believe that was Terrence Williams, I think. I could be wrong though.
All these
But
memories are coming back to me from
right.
2011, man. That was a great year in a lot of ways.
Let's see here. Yeah, so for me, I haven't bet on this one, but I don't know. It just seems that Alabama, you kind of expect Alabama to find, a couple bad games that they bounce back in a big way, especially after getting killed by Georgia. But you never, I mean, with Oklahoma, they have that defense and Mateer, couple weeks rest, maybe the thumb, he could finally throw the football. It's been a few months already, but you know, I don't know. To me, this is the toughest game.
R. Mason Thomas is also going to be back for OU. He was supposed
The
to be,
defensive tackle, right? Or
yeah, yeah,
lineman?
yeah, D lineman for OU, and having him back, if he's up to his usual self, is a huge factor for OU here. This is a complete toss up. I mean, it's literally a pick 'em because it
Yeah.
was Bama -1.5. Now it's OU -1.5. There might be some -1s out there for OU. So in these kind of situations, John, I always just go back to my theory, which is hard to beat an elite team twice in the same year. Let me go with the team that lost the first time.
Yeah, I think the only time that kind of backfired on some people was the BYU Texas Tech game, and BYU was, a pretty big underdog. But that didn't work out for them.
To
But
be
this is a
fair,
little bit of a closer matchup, though.
yeah, let me rephrase that statement that I just said. When two teams in the same class face each other twice in the
There you
same
go.
year, whether they're both average, both okay, both good, both great, both elite, BYU and Texas Tech are not in the same class.
Yeah.
So,
Virginia and Duke. Virginia beat Duke, and then Duke came back and beat Virginia.
and they're in the same class. So,
Georgia, Alabama. There's another one that happened this year. I think that's it. ACC, Big Ten, nobody rematched because Indiana and Ohio State didn't play each other this regular season. So yeah, and I don't know about the American. Did Tulane and North Texas didn't play each other, did they? In the
yeah,
regular
they did
season?
not. They did not.
Okay.
UNT had such a manageable regular season schedule because they all the good teams, all the upper echelon teams, all the top half teams in the American, the teams that UNT did face that were in the top half of the American, they got them at home.
Yeah.
It was the most manageable schedule for UNT in quite some time.
All right. Well, yeah. That's all I really have for that game. So let's go on to the next one. This one's going to be 11 a.m. kickoff. I think they put this at 11 just because it doesn't go up against the NFL. Other than that, that's the only thing that makes sense why this wasn't a late game. And that's the Miami Hurricanes traveling to College Station to take on Texas A&M, Fighting Ags. And it looks like A&M's laying 3 points here. I've seen 3.5. This was at 4, went down to 3.5. Now it looks at 3. Looks like it's at 3, laying $1.25 and a total of 48. What do you have on this game?
I could see Miami winning this game. I think this is another toss up. I know the spread would suggest that technically A&M has a higher chance to win than our previous pick of Alabama. I think the upset chances, or OU Alabama is this game is just as much of a toss up as Alabama OU. So I think Miami is the more talented team, but I think A&M has the better coaching staff, and A&M's at home. So give me the Aggies here, but that is not me saying, look, A&M is just a different team than Miami. No, they're not. And this is also not me saying A&M faced a much more difficult schedule. No, they didn't.
Yeah.
A&M had the most manageable schedule in the SEC. Hindsight, because you go into a season and you're thinking no team in the SEC is going to have a manageable schedule, but somehow A&M did because they faced all the teams that pretty much fired their coach or didn't have healthy a healthy roster going into the matchup, or faced a bunch of teams that didn't know how to win close games if they kept it close, and then they faced the teams at just like the right time of the season to add on to it. So I,
It was an
I
easy
don't think
schedule. It was an easy schedule.
it was, especially by SEC standards. So I don't necessarily think A&M is a battle-tested one-loss team. I think they're like, I don't want to say fraudulent because I think they are legit, but I don't think that they are necessarily better decisively than Miami. So I think this is a true toss-up, but I'll go with the home team because I don't feel comfortable taking back-to-back road teams here. So
Yeah.
I'll go with the home team and I'll back what I think is the better coaching staff, Aggies.
I like Miami here. I
I
liked it
yep,
at 4. I liked it at 3.5. Um yeah, I just, this Miami team, they got everything you need. They got an offensive line, they got a defensive line. The offensive line will be able to hold up against the A&M pass rush. At least they should. They have a veteran quarterback. He's either in, Carson Beck's a 5 or 5 guy. He's either going to throw 5 touchdowns or 5 interceptions. It's either one or the other.
right.
And they've got one of the best receivers in the country, true freshman. What's his name?
Mario Craver?
No, not no. He's like number 10. What's
I'll look it up. I know
what's his? Drawing a blank here. Well, anyway, they've got speed.
Malachi Tony.
Malachi Tony, there you go. And they've got Tony, one of, if not the best receiver in the country, even for his small size and inexperience. And they got good running backs. I like everything about this Miami team, offensively, defensively. They had, who did they lose to? They lost to Louisville, and then
SMU got him.
that's right, SMU beat them. So those they lost at Louisville. That was a home game for Miami, wasn't it? Or was
It
that a
was.
road game? It was, yeah.
Yeah, it was a home game.
Yeah, so that was a bad loss, and Louisville's one of the most fraudulent teams in the country. Was and one game left, but yeah, I think this should be a little bit closer to the Oklahoma Alabama the 1 point spread of pick 'em. I don't think A&M should be fair by 4 points, 3.5 points. This is a pretty big game for a young squad. I wouldn't say necessarily inexperienced, but Carson Beck's at least played in some big games. Marcel Reed has not, but they've got all the talent. A&M's got all the talent in the world, but can they put it together? Again, like we said, battle tested. Miami, they're pretty battle tested. I think they played a pretty good schedule. They both played Notre Dame. Miami beat Notre Dame. A&M was fortunate to beat the Irish on the road, but I just don't agree with the spread here, and I do think Miami's the better team. So I'm happy to take 3 points, 3.5 points, 4 points. I don't think we're gonna get a four again, but I do like the road team in this matchup. I just think that the Aggies aren't used to matching up with the team that could match up with their speed. They played Texas. Texas could match up with their speed. Now Miami, the same thing. They can match up with the A&M athleticism and speed, something that basically no other team was able to do besides Notre Dame and Texas. And you have Miami, who's maybe the fastest and most athletic team in the country. So this is a great matchup, and I think the spread's wrong here. So I'll happily take the points in this one with the Hurricanes.
So you're saying wrong team favored, huh?
I do. I think if A&M's favored, it should be by a point, no more than that. Both of these teams played common opponent with Notre Dame. Miami dominated Notre Dame in that game, even though it was the first game of the season. A&M played Notre Dame in what, the second or third game of the season. So it's kind of comparable. And A&M, they dominated that terrible Notre Dame defense, which Notre Dame has the best defense in the country now, right? 15 weeks later, that's all I keep hearing is Notre Dame has the best defense in the country. But they were terrible in the beginning of the season. Miami destroyed them, and A&M went, shootout. I think that game was in the 40s, high 40s or 50s.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, if A&M's favored, and A&M's not even one of the best home teams. They lose almost every year to they lose at home, so I don't really value the A&M home field advantage, especially at an 11 a.m. game. I just everything's working against the Aggies in this one, so I just don't understand the 3 point spread. I'll happily take it with Miami.
I can see that. I can definitely see Miami winning this game. I just don't want to find myself in a situation where I'm taking Mario Cristobal and he finds a way to Mario Cristobal, in this kind of a spot. If Miami were at home, I would take the home team.
Yeah,
But I can see this game going either way because I don't think A&M is quite as good as their record, and I think Miami's legit. I think both these teams are legit. I think they're in the same class, so I'll go with the home team, and I will not trust Mario Cristobal.
yeah.
I
I
am
just
not saying like that Miami can't win. I just don't
mhm.
want to put my faith in Miami.
Yeah, because it's never easy, having to trust Cristobal and Carson Beck. So that's you don't ever want to be in that situation, but you kind of have to here. So we'll see how it plays out. And first, yeah, first playoff game for Elko and Cristobal for both of them, whether it's 4 team or 12 team playoff game. So first playoff game for both of them. Or did Cristobal go to the playoffs with Oregon?
No, he never did. He should have.
Yeah, that's
2019, they
right. He
lost to
never did.
Arizona State. Late
Okay. So yeah, so
was
he
able to
does
get Utah in
first
game.
playoff game for both of them. All right, next game, 2:30, a rematch, and this is to me, I think this is actually kind of might be an intriguing game, and that's the Tulane Green Wave traveling to Oxford to take on Ole Miss. Rebs favored by 17 and a half with the new head coach, ex UTSA defensive coordinator Pete Golding taking over the reins in Oxford. What do you think about this game?
I'm going Ole Miss, and I think there's a lot of scenarios in which Ole Miss covers. I know it's a large number, it's above a key number. I would lean Ole Miss there. That's not a best bet, but Ole Miss is going to win this game. John, there's not too much in today's college football universe that is really shocking or surprising. One thing that would surprise me is a G5 team winning on the road against this caliber of a team. Now, one could say, what's Ole Miss right now? What is the situation for Ole Miss? Like, what's their psyche right now? Sure, but you can argue those points. But if you are thinking Tulane has a chance to pull off the upset, it has almost everything to do with I don't trust Ole Miss right now, and their situation. It's not really as much. Oh, I love Tulane, man. They're really good. They're good. I just don't think the top of the G5 is as good as it used to be.
Yeah.
If this were a 2019 Memphis, I would say Ole Miss, watch out. But it's not. This is a different era of college football now, and I'm simply not going to pick a G5 team to win on the road in this kind of a spot. I mean, would it be shocking if Ole Miss wins by 28? Not really. So I'm taking Ole Miss, and I think there are more scenarios for Ole Miss to cover than there are for Tulane. I love John Summerall. He's a head coach of two teams right now.
Yeah.
But um, I'm going to take Ole Miss here. I just can't get myself to pick a G5 team in this kind of a spot.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to agree because I had it pulled up here that the last three times these teams have played, Ole Miss won by I believe 24 points at home. That was this season. What was that score? No, more than that. This season they won 45-10.
And they
All
took their
right.
foot off the gas.
Yeah, and the spread was 12 and a half that game in
Mhm.
Oxford. And 2 years ago at Tulane, that was a closer game, 17-point game, but a little bit of a different Ole Miss team. And then, in 2021, Ole Miss at home defeated Tulane 61-21. So, yeah, there's not a lot I like about backing Tulane here. Yeah, they may have a chance to keep it close, but now you have kind of uh, a team that's got like a chip on their shoulder. Not so much poor me, we lost Lane Kiffin. I feel like they're more so we could win without him type of deal, and especially with Pete Golding taking over as head coach, so that defense is gonna be locked in, and they still have the same OC. Is that right? He stayed.
I'm not
Charlie
sure.
Weiss Jr., I believe.
He may have. I'm not sure.
Even though Kiffin was probably calling the majority of the offense, yeah, I think that a lot. I just don't. There's no way I'm gonna back Tulane here.
So,
I think Ole
oh,
Miss could take her. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt. You can finish what you were saying, and then I was going to answer your
No, I
question.
was just gonna say I have Ole Miss here as well. Yeah, I like Ole Miss in this game. I think that they will run it up, kind of like you're saying, and I feel like they have a chip on their shoulder now. They feel like they're the underdogs in not only this game, which is a little far fetched, but in the playoff now. They went from being like a real dark horse to now they're going to be feeling like they're like a 12 seed. So that they could be dangerous, and yeah, I just trust this Ole Miss defense to take care of business here, and I just don't see Tulane keeping this one close. Give me Ole Miss for sure.
Yep, I'm with you on that. What you were talking about with Charlie Weiss. So, Charlie Weiss Jr., he is going to stay with Ole Miss through the college football playoff before transitioning to LSU alongside Kiffin. I think John David Baker is going to be hired or is hired as the future Ole Miss offensive coordinator.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. So that one, I think that one's going to be a blowout. We've already seen that this year. Again, the committee basically tied their own hands, and we've got multiple rematches for the first week. This is honestly is terrible. This college football playoff is so bad. The seeding or the teams rather, there's no telling how they're going to restructure because it's going to change next year. It's just going to depend on what how they want to structure it. Do they want to go to a play-in method or do they want to go to 16 teams? I don't know, but they're definitely going to change it. I feel like.
Yeah, change is definitely coming there at some point. The question is when, not if.
Yeah,
Because we know no one likes how the playoff ended up being this year. Like you have a lot of the talking heads complaining about two G5 teams, so
yeah,
it's going to change.
yeah, and it should. Tulane had a great season. Excuse me, they had a good season. James Madison, great season, but it's like really, and something that and I know a lot of people have been talking about, how can we fix it? How can we fix it? But I feel like if that was a play-in game, you have Tulane and James Madison, the winner plays like that's a play-in game. You have like Notre Dame, Texas, a play-in game. I think if they go to a play-in game kind of format, I could see that happening. But I don't know. I just don't have very much faith that they'll fix it. It's just always going to be a mess, but we'll see what happens. So, all right, next game, 6:30 Saturday night. The James Madison Dukes head into the Autzen Zoo to take on the Oregon Ducks. Ducks laying 21 points, total of 47. What do you think about this game?
Oregon all the way. So I think JMU maybe they stay in it for a little while. I think they're by G5 team standards, they're pretty deep. They actually have decent depth and they
Yeah,
play good defense. They're physical at the line of scrimmage. So I would not be shocked to see JMU hang around for a while. You check the byline or maybe you're watching the game and it's midway through the first half, maybe even late first half, and it's a one score game, you're thinking, hey, I thought everyone was saying JMU doesn't belong on the field with Oregon. And then
yeah,
you check back late third quarter, and Oregon's up by a few scores. I think it's going to be like that. But Oregon's going to win this game. The question is, when does Oregon get their decisive lead? That's what I'm questioning because I could see again JMU hanging around for a little while. They play good football. They don't have any great players, but they are well balanced and they're deep. I previewed James Madison on the Gridiron Expert YouTube channel this past summer, and to me, they seemed like the best team in the Sun Belt. Now they ended up being a little bit better than I thought they would be, just in terms of the margin of
hmm,
differential between them and the rest of the Sun Belt. But I certainly thought they were going to be the best team because of their depth, and that's not something that most G5 teams can do, or that's not something most G5 teams have. And so I
yeah,
think something that JMU can do in this game is hang around for a little while. So that's if Oregon doesn't get their big plays early. So that's what I don't know. Does Oregon get a 14-point lead early, or does it take them a while? Or a decent amount of time to
yeah,
get a decisive lead? Oregon's winning, and I think they're going to win by a few scores. My unknown factor about this game is when does Oregon go up by the margin of 2 to 3 scores where people turn off the game?
yeah. Yeah, I agree, and I see it playing out just like that Liberty game kind of did from a couple years ago, and um, yeah, I just don't see how James Madison can keep up. 21 points is obviously a lot, but we also thought that Liberty team was pretty good. At least I did, and they had a decent quarterback, and they just pressured him nonstop. That wasn't a home game either. I think that was I don't Peach Bowl, so that had to be like in Atlanta. But yeah, I just don't see James Madison. Dan Lanning lives for games like this where he could, score 60 points and try to get a shutout. So we'll see how it goes. But yeah, there's no way I could take 21 points here with James Madison. I think I'd just have to lay it with the Ducks.
Yeah, whether it's in Glendale, Arizona, like the Liberty matchup was, or if it's in Eugene, I'm taking Oregon all the way.
Yeah.
It could be a neutral site. I was being funny there with that statement, but it could be a neutral site. They could be playing across the world, some random stadium, or in Eugene. I'm going Ducks all the way here. Um, but again, I could see JMU hanging around for a little while. So I am interested to see, I guess, how good JMU is in terms of stepping up to this style of competition. Because with the American teams, we saw it in the non-conference, they did very well. And we know the top of the American is legit.
Yeah.
I can't say the same about the Sun Belt. So JMU played against Louisville, on the road. They hung in that game. They had a lead in the second half, ended up losing by 2 touchdowns. Now, I'm
Mhm.
sure some are going to say, but Louisville is not Oregon. That's very true. That's why I want to see how does JMU look in this kind of a game. I am not saying that they're not good. You have to be better than good to really good to beat Oregon. So Oregon wins, and I think Oregon wins comfortably.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. And that's pretty much everything we were going to go over. But did you have a regular bowl season best bet or multiple that you wanted to go?
One thing, so there's a few that I like. Well, let me see on my list here. Give me Houston -3 against LSU. I don't know how motivated LSU is for this game, and I think this is the Houston Super Bowl. Plus, it's going to be played in Houston. Yeah, I right. Are there any 2.5s out there? Because if there are, I would handle it.
I don't know. I saw three on Bet Online. I saw juice to LSU though, but there it was still three -3 for Houston.
I like Houston. If LSU wins, good for them. Because I don't trust LSU in that kind of a spot right now.
Yeah,
And LSU's opt outs are not done, by the way. They already have a few opt outs, noteworthy on defense too, which is their calling card.
yeah.
So LSU's not going to score much in this game, and I think Houston can get a few more points than LSU.
And they have a
So,
pretty good defense. Houston does.
yep, they're coached well. Now, do I think that Houston talent wise equals LSU? Nope. But in bowl season, sometimes talent doesn't matter, especially
Yeah.
for the non-playoff games. So give me Houston to cover there. I would moneyline parlay Army and Navy. Both of those teams, believe it or not, just opened up as underdogs.
Really? Who are they? Who's Army playing?
They are playing a Yukon team that's going to have a ton of players not play in the bowl game because
Okay.
Jim Moore is off to Colorado State, and a lot of Yukon's better players are in the portal. Whether they're going to Colorado State or somewhere else remains to be seen, but
Okay.
they're not going to be at full strength, and Army is. You can always trust the military schools in bowl season. In the last 21 bowl games involving Army, Air Force, and Navy, they're 18-3 straight up.
Oh, wow, that's really good.
Yeah, if you want to take them against the spread, Army and Navy, I get it.
And
But
Navy's
I would,
playing Cincinnati.
and Cincinnati is not done with their opt outs either.
Yeah, they did the Sorsby's transferring.
Yep,
That's all you need to know. You just fade them just off of that news alone.
yep. Cincinnati is not good against the run, and their offensive line I think is actually pretty good. So I wouldn't be shocked if Cincinnati is maybe able to move the ball a little bit on Navy's defense, despite not having Sorsby. But Navy is going to control the line of scrimmage, and they care a whole heck of a lot more than Cincinnati does in this bowl game. And
Yeah.
again, Cincinnati may not be done with the opt outs. Army against Yukon. I wouldn't be. I know Army hasn't won by margin this year. They're a little bit of a younger team. They've struggled offensively.
Mm-hmm.
Defense is not that great either, but their pace of play keeps them in games. If you look at Army, they've been in more one-score games than any team in the country. So if you don't want to take them ATS, then I would combine Navy and Army and do a money line parlay because when it comes to the military schools, They play like their life is on the line. They are the only teams in bowl season outside of the playoff teams
Yeah,
that play like their life is on the line. It's like it's their Rose Bowl every single bowl game. So you can trust those two teams because of who they are and also because of what their opponents may not be in Cincinnati and UConn. So I would moneyline parlay those two, and if you want to take them ATS, maybe find a 6.5 out there for Navy, a 9.5 out there for Army. I would do that too. I trust those teams in bowl season every year.
I like it. I like it. Any other
I'm
ones?
I've thought about one other that's taking place tomorrow. I don't think I'm going to pull the trigger on this one, but at least I will give my thoughts on why
Okay.
it came up in my mind. I lean NC State -4 against Memphis. From what I'm hearing, it seems like NC State's going to have pretty much everybody play, especially their quarterback, who may enter the portal. He hasn't made up his mind yet, but he has made up his mind for this game. He's playing. He's suiting up. He wants to get a bowl win. Speaking of bowl wins, NC State has not had a bowl win since 2017, and I think they've got a pretty good coach, and I think they're going to come ready to play. On the other side, what is Memphis's psyche right now? They lost their last 3 regular season games. They went from being a potential G5 representative after beating South Florida in a game that USF blew, but they went from being potentially, one of those top G5 teams, if not the top G5 team, to losing their last 3 regular season games. Didn't even play for a conference title. Their coach is at Arkansas. From what I'm hearing, it seems like the majority of the Memphis players are going to play in this game. But again, do they care? They might be suiting up. I
Yeah.
don't trust Memphis. I lean NC State. But NC State's defense has been pretty bad, and it could be one of those games where it ends up being a little bit closer than you think. Maybe, maybe not, but I lean NC State. If Memphis wins, I tip my hat to them because I just don't see Memphis winning. But obviously, it's above a key number, so it's not a best bet, but it's a strong lean. But I do have those best bets with the military teams, and I like Houston -3 against LSU because like I don't trust LSU right now. I know they kept it close against OU. That has to do in large part with OU and OU's non-ability to score right now.
Yeah.
Um, but but now LSU is going to have opt-outs defensively. So what is LSU's psyche in this game? Because Houston, this is their Super Bowl, and it's going to be a home game for them. Now
Yeah.
that may not be a pretty game, but I think Houston's winning.
Yeah, I agree. I think it'll definitely be a defensive game, and I rather have I rather have the Houston defense and at least their offense because LSU don't really have a quarterback.
Right. Or
So
offensive
yeah,
line.
yeah. So no, yeah, the offensive line is terrible for LSU. So that's everything. Like I said, I think I'm gonna wait a little bit longer before I pull the trigger on the Alabama Oklahoma game. But definitely, I love Miami in their matchup. I do like Ole Miss to win big, and I like James Madison to win big, and that's pretty much everything that I have now. I was thinking about regarding the regular bowls, Texas laying 7.5, as well as Clemson. I can't find the Clemson spread.
You like Clemson against Penn State?
Yeah, Dabo usually does show up for the bowl game, so I
Yeah.
don't. And I think Penn State has a lot of opt outs, transfers as well. I'm trying to look for the spread. I'm not seeing it.
Are most of the starters playing for Clemson?
I don't know. That's why I have to double check because that's why I try not to jump in on any of these until like the day of, and you know who all's playing. But right now Clemson's favored by 3, so that's one to keep an eye on. And I was thinking about UTSA -6.5, but yesterday Jeff Traylor was saying that they're dealing with a bunch of injuries and transfers and tampering. So I don't. I'll probably wait on that. But yeah, I really do like Miami's definitely my favorite game, and I think Ole Miss throttles Tulane. It's a rematch, but it's. I feel like it's gonna be. I don't know. I just feel like Ole Miss has a chip on their shoulder, and they're gonna take care of business and not stumble. And with the game being at home, I think it helps out Ole Miss as well.
Yeah, and that's one of those cases where it's two teams facing each other twice in the same year, but they're not in the same class.
Exactly.
Maybe Tulane
Exactly.
loses by less this time. Maybe so, but they're not winning. So
Yeah, I agree. And I think Oregon's going to do the same thing to James Madison, kind of take care of business, and they're not going to mess around with them. They're going to take it dead. They're not going to, with as much time as Dan Lanning has to prepare for them, they're going to be prepared, I believe, especially after getting embarrassed by Ohio State last year. I think it's a huge game for Oregon in the first round.
yeah, yep, I agree. Do you
But
have
yeah, that's
any?
everything. Do what?
Do you have any best bets for any of the other bowl games?
No, I really don't. I did like Houston, kind of like you mentioned, but without knowing like who's playing, it's hard to kind of guess right now. To me, so I usually don't attack these until like the day of, at least where I could know and find out like who all's playing, get a better idea. Especially the line movements have been crazy. So that's one of the reasons why I don't try to look for anything ahead of time. But like you mentioned regarding like the military academies, where they definitely got a contract, they've got contracts, so they're not going anywhere. But other than that, yeah, it's hard to judge or pick teams without knowing all the information. At least for me.
And I like Arizona against SMU as well, but Arizona's already a field goal favorite, and that would be like a money line play. So if money comes in on SMU, then I think Arizona would be a good money line play. But obviously, money line a little bit too expensive right now for that.
Yeah,
But
that's a
I
good
think
one because I like the Arizona defense. And SMU, they don't play any defense, and Kevin Jennings he's good for 3 turnovers. So I like what you're thinking there.
yeah. So right now it's at 3. Maybe that doesn't move. Maybe it does. If it moves in SMU's favor, maybe it's like, I don't know, 1.5, 2 before kickoff.
Yeah,
I'd sprinkle some money line with Arizona. I think Arizona's actually a good team. I was totally wrong about this Arizona team in the summer. I did not have high expectations for them. I'm like, hey,
yeah,
they get to a bowl game, good season. They've done much more than that. They were a blown fourth quarter lead against BYU away from finishing as a 10-win team and being in contention for the Big 12 championship.
yeah.
Like, they're a good team.
That Iowa State blowout, I couldn't believe it, and that
Yeah,
was that was a huge loss. Turned out to be a huge loss for them.
yeah. So they're a good team, man, and they're on a roll right now, and they would not mind getting to 10 wins for the second time in 3 years.
Yeah, no, I agree with you on that game. I wouldn't after the way SMU crumbled against Cal. Yeah, there's no way I would take SMU. I think and then SMU usually has been losing in bowl games. Not to count last year, but the year before they got beat by Boston College. So yeah, I would take Arizona too.
Yeah, I mean, think about Arizona this year. So they had that blowout loss to Iowa State on the road, but they nearly and probably should have beat BYU, and they almost beat Houston on the road. I don't think Houston's a great team, but like that was a close loss.
Yeah, at
So
that time, I think Houston still only had one loss whenever they played that game. I think they only had the loss to Texas Tech whenever they played
that's right.
Arizona.
That's
Yeah,
right. And like, look at what they've done recently. They've won 5 in a row, and like these have been pretty impressive. Like the margin of victory, and then who they've beaten. So they won
yeah,
at Colorado. The who is not impressive there, but the margin, 52-17 on the road, that's pretty good. They took care. Well, they beat Kansas at home. I think that was a push. I think that spread was 4. They beat them 24-20.
yeah. That was
Then
a
they
push
won
on the
at.
last. They scored a touchdown on like one of the last plays of the game.
Okay, you did.
Arizona did. They were losing. They were
Oh, you're
losing,
right.
and they had like a 20-something yard touchdown run
You're right.
to take the lead. I
You're right.
remember that
So
because I had 4.5 and the game landed on 4, so that's how I remember that game.
I see. And then they won at Cincinnati. They killed Baylor and they won at the rival Arizona State in decisive fashion. This
Yep.
is a good team, and they are not that much more battle tested than SMU, but I think the Big 12 is better than the ACC. And like you mentioned, John, what is SMU psyche right now after that late season loss to Cal in
Yeah.
heartbreaking fashion for SMU's sake? Arizona, meanwhile, they're climbing up. They're playing this game closer to Arizona territory than they are SMU territory.
Yeah.
I think Zona is going to be fired up for this game, and SMU may or may not be. Maybe they are, but I know Arizona will be.
Yeah.
So,
I agree. I agree 100% with that. That's a good one. Yeah, but yeah, and then that's everything that I had. Did you have anything else you want to go over?
see, I think I'm not sure who you'd have winning in the second round of the playoff. Um, who would you have between Oregon and Texas Tech?
I like Texas Tech. For me, I don't know about you, but might as well get into this right now. I got Georgia winning it all. I think Georgia's going to win the national championship. They've got, I wouldn't say the best. They don't have the best quarterback. They don't have the best offense, but they've got a defense that's pretty locked in right now, which they weren't at the beginning of the season. So if we do get an Ole Miss Georgia rematch, I think that'll show us a lot, because Georgia struggled a lot with Ole Miss and their offense. So that's a huge game. But I like Georgia to win it all. And the reason why I like Tech over Oregon is the way Indiana bullied Oregon, and they did that on the road. So this will be basically a road game if Oregon wins against James Madison, because I think this is the game that's going to be at in Arlington, the Cotton Bowl. So I like Texas Tech up front, and Indiana was able to bully Oregon, and they played really tough with them. Texas Tech's a tough kind of team. I think they can give Oregon some issues. So especially basically a home game for Texas Tech. I like Texas Tech in that matchup. What about you?
Same here, John. I like Texas Tech there. The spread would be maybe Oregon minus 2.5, minus
Yeah, I
three
saw. I just saw a second ago. 1.5 right now is what Bet Online has.
for Oregon.
Yeah, Oregon favored by 1.5 points.
Okay, that makes sense. Could there be a little bit more money coming in on Oregon if they kill JMU? I could see that. So I would wait around for a better price on Texas
Yeah,
Tech. If you don't get a better price, apologies there, because then we can point our finger at Oregon, JMU, saying that was the reason why. But I like Texas Tech there. So
yeah, same here. I do too. So that's why I'm hoping we get a Final Four of Texas Tech. I really don't care about who wins in the Indiana bracket, whether it's Alabama, Oklahoma, Indiana. I don't care. And then Miami, Georgia, and then Tech and whoever. And a Tech Georgia national championship, that would be interesting. Something different, something new, entertaining. So that's kind of how I think it's gonna be. I think I have a feeling that Oklahoma is gonna win. But I really don't know. But listen, I think Oklahoma's gonna win. Indiana will beat Oklahoma. Even though if Oklahoma beats Alabama, Oklahoma could definitely beat Indiana. Um,
wait, you think Alabama's beating OU or OU's beating Alabama?
I think Oklahoma will beat Alabama.
Okay.
I keep going back and forth on it, to be honest with you, but I want Oklahoma to advance, so I'm just going to say Oklahoma advances. And if Oklahoma does win, I think they will beat Indiana. Um, and I think Oregon will win. Texas Tech will beat Oregon. Texas Tech OU. I think Texas Tech wins. And then Georgia Ole Miss. Georgia advances. Miami Ohio State. Miami advances. And then a Georgia Texas Tech national championship
I can see
with
that.
Georgia winning it all.
So my bracket will look pretty similar to yours. Couple differences, but I mean, it's, minimal difference just because I have some different results in some of these toss-up games. By the way, this year's playoff is going to be so much better than last year's playoff. We're going to have
Once
a
once we
lot.
get out of the first round, I agree.
Yeah. Well, the first two games, the first round could come down to the wire, but not the.
Agreed. Agreed. The first two games, they're good. The second two,
Yeah.
they should be stinkers. But other than that, once we get rid of the G5 schools, then yeah, I think we'll have a pretty good playoff.
Yeah, I agree because
If one
I
of
think
them
Bama.
somehow wins, that's going to be kind of irritating, but we'll see what happens. You never know. That's why they play. But go ahead. What do you
Yep.
think? How do you think it's going to play out?
So, I'll go Bama just because of my theory there. It's hard to beat. I've said it several times. It's hard to beat an elite team twice in the same year. So I'll go. If you're no, if you have two teams in the same class, it's hard for one team to win both of those matchups. So for the same team to win both the matchups. So I'll go Bama over OU. Not confident. I'll go A&M over Miami. Not confident. I'll go Oregon and Ole Miss to take care of business. Very confident. And then in the second round, I will go. Um, I'll say Indiana against the winner of Bama OU. In this case, for me, Bama takes Indiana. I don't know if they're going to win decisively, but I think Indiana wins.
Hmm.
I'm confident in Indiana winning. Um, then I'll go both Ohio State and Georgia to take care of business in their first games and their opposition's second games. Um, I think Miami or A&M could give Ohio State more of a battle than Ole Miss would give Georgia a battle right now.
Yeah.
But I think Indiana, Ohio State, and Georgia take care of business. Texas Tech, Oregon would be a fantastic matchup. And I'll go with Texas Tech there. They are the older team. Oregon's a little bit of a younger team. And I think Texas Tech is a little bit better at the line of scrimmage right now. Never thought I'd be saying that about Texas Tech, but here we are. So then Indiana against Texas Tech, I will go with the team with a little bit more experience in these bigger games as of late. As of late, I stress Indiana. Crazy to say that, but
Yeah, I know,
I'll
right?
go. I also think Indiana has the better coaching staff, um, or at least the better head coach, better game management. I trust Indiana's quarterback more than Texas Tech's quarterback. Indiana is better in the red zone than Texas Tech, especially offensively. Both teams are great defensively in the red zone. I love Texas Tech's defense. At some point, I'm like, that Texas Tech red zone offense is going to come back to bite them, and it might be in that game. So I'll go Hoosiers to play in the national championship, facing the winner of Georgia and Ohio State, and give me Georgia to win that game. And just like you, John, I've got the dogs barking. I'm going to take Georgia over Indiana for the national championship.
I like it. I just think right now Georgia's the hottest team. You can make the you could make the case for Indiana or Texas Tech, to be honest with you. But I just you know that's a huge step up in competition, right, for Indiana. Um, whether they play Alabama or Oklahoma, that's going to be one of the best defenses, or I guess the second best defense they'll see all season, aside from Ohio State. I thought Ohio State, their game management killed them with Ryan Day, going for it, and but the Ohio State defensive backs got exposed on third down multiple times in that game, but it's going to be a tough game. They're going to have to play an SEC school, which, how you mentioned, there's two parts of the college football world. One's the deserving and the best. There's also the half of the country that thinks SEC's got the best teams and the Big Ten's got the best teams. So we'll be able to find out. So whether Alabama or Oklahoma wins, we'll still get a Big Ten SEC game, which is I think that's a great thing. Same thing if A&M wins, we'll get a Big Ten SEC matchup. But yeah, I think this matches up perfectly for a potential Big Ten SEC national championship. But I don't think Indiana's going to make it to the national championship. I really don't. I think it's just going to be too much for them. They lost one of their best defensive players from a freak injury, and Yeah, Indiana having to beat an SEC school and then potentially, I mean, if Oregon gets past James Madison, gets past Texas Tech, if Indiana plays Oregon, there's another rematch, and they'll have to play Oregon again. But they beat them decisively once; they can do it again. But yeah, I think it's just going to be very interesting once we get out of. We have those first two games, and once we finish those G5s, get the G5s out of here, then the real playoffs start. And I think it should be a good one, a great one.
Yeah, I think almost every single one of the playoff games are going to come down to the wire. Almost every single one of them. So obviously, a couple in the first round, I do not think will come down to the wire. We can figure
Yeah.
out which two those are, and then in the second round, I think both Ohio State and Georgia take care of business. I think Indiana wins against the winner of Alabama OU. I certainly think Indiana wins. I don't think it's going to be by a large margin though.
Yeah. It'll be interesting. It'll be interesting because you also have, if Alabama wins, a Ty Simpson Fernando Mendoza matchup, which will be great, especially for NFL people. So I think there's a lot of good potential matchups here. And like I said, once we get rid of the G5, now we could really begin. But yeah, I look forward to it, and it all starts tomorrow night with a good one, Oklahoma, Alabama.
Yep. Yeah. That is a toss up if I've ever seen one. But
Yeah,
yeah, that should be a really fun game. Lower scoring offenses will struggle to move the football. It's going to come down to Ty Simpson against the OU defense. Does the OU defense get the better of Simpson and take over the game, force three turnovers or so? Or does Ty Simpson manage the Alabama offense well, avoid the turnovers, and get Bama 17, 20 offensive points? Because if Bama can get those 17 plus offensive points and not turn the football over, stress of not turn the football over, I think Bama wins. But
did did Georgia end up shutting out Alabama? Did Alabama even score a touchdown? Maybe one touchdown.
yeah, Bama had 7 points.
Okay, okay. So I mean, right now, Ty Simpson, this Alabama offense, they're kind of a little cold. They didn't have the greatest game against Auburn. They got almost shut out by Georgia. So now they got to go on the road and face a top five defense against Oklahoma. So this should be a very interesting matchup. I think it should be a great game.
Yeah, neither offense is looking good. I mean, we've known about OU's offense. It's not great. It hasn't ever been great this year. But with OU's style of play, you may look at it and say that's not sustainable, but they keep doing it.
Yeah.
So if Bama avoids the turnovers, they're going to win. But I don't know if they will. So I had Bama winning because of my theory, as I've said several times. But
Yeah.
otherwise, like I wouldn't have a strong lean. I still don't have a strong lean. It's a lean.
Yeah, my gut saying Oklahoma, my brain's kind of saying Alabama, so I'm just waiting to see how it plays out until tomorrow afternoon, and then see what happens. But I do look forward to watching this one though.
Yeah, it should be a good one for sure.
All right, well that's everything from us, and hopefully we could do this again for the second round and moving forward. But yeah, I like what we got here, and hopefully a winning weekend for us and bowl season.
That's right. That's right.
All right. Well, thanks to everyone that watched, like, subscribe, and we'll see y'all next time.